welcome to Strictly Healthy, and this is the show that discusses all things that affect us in our health, whether it's emotional, mental, physical, those things, even business health we will be discussing. But today I have a very special guest, Dr. Gail Pearson, who is coming to us from New Zealand, and she's going to share some of her tips and things that she wants to share with us regarding our physical health. And we're talking about how to boost your internal defense system. So I want to welcome Gail. Thank you for bearing with me and joining me today.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks for being so gracious. Anyway, please do tell us a little bit of an intro about who you are and, just a bit of a bio on yourself, please.
Thanks, Linda, and welcome everybody. And it's from the sunny New Zealand today. I know we're coming into summer and you're going into winter, so it's quite different, but here we are ready to roll. My name is Gail Pearson. I'm a New Zealand trained anaesthetist, or if you come from the States, it's anesthesiologist. My mother said, why can't you do another specialty? Because I can't say it, let alone spell it. But anyway, I did anesthesia because I was fascinated with human physiology and linking together the pharmacology, or the medical pharmaceuticals, was actually a great way to do the combination of the two. So I practice in Auckland, New Zealand, and I've been practicing now for almost 30 years. And during that time, I have found that my practice has evolved. So initially, it was the combination of the physiology and the pharmacology. Anesthesia is a specialty where you can do something and you see a result almost immediately. So you know what you're doing, and you can gauge it very, very easily. We've had a whole lot of different drugs that have come in, which have been absolutely fantastic. I've managed to recognize which ones have been going to be game changers, and despite other people being negative. And what happens 10 years later, they're in standard practice. So I feel I've got a good feel for how things, because I'm an observer basically. And anesthesia is all about observation. And when it's interesting, Linda, that you're talking about emotional health, because what I'm finding more is that a lot of my anesthesia practice takes place in the room before they even come into the theatre.
Yes, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, because often what you've got to do is number one, they've got to have your trust, and you've got a very limited time to be able to get that. I mean, basically, you're going to paralyze these people. You're going to make them unconscious. You're going to look after them when they have no bodily functions and no control whatsoever. So it is a biggie for a lot of people, and a lot of people are very fearful. And then they've got all the other stuff that's going on in their lives as well. So I feel my job is to really make them relaxed, make them feel as if they are in control, that they're not just sort of someone next in the line. So it's a very personalized approach that I have. And I try and get to any fears that they have very quickly, and to work through those fears with them. And I'm finding that if I can get that emotional healing done first, before I get them into the theatre, it means that I have to use less pharmaceutical drugs for anesthesia. It means that they have a better outcome, and they have a better, their whole mindset is different. So it's again, it's a mindset change as well.
Well, I've noticed that anesthesists, I'm not even saying it right this time, but I've noticed that they are some of the kindest people of the medical field. I've noticed that, because they do have to do this caring and so on for people, especially when they're under, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. You're caring for an unconscious patient who can't look after themselves. So it's the ultimate in care. And it even goes down to making sure that all of their limbs are all protected, that they're not going to get pressure points. So we have a very holistic way of looking at any patient that comes into our realm, basically.
Yeah, great, good. So let's get stuck in then to some of the questions. And some of these are from other people as well. They've asked certain questions, but based on the current situation that we're dealing with now, how can we cope with what's happening? How can we help ourselves?
Linda, it's all about going back to basics, and it's all about an approach which is a very common sense approach. And let's look at what we can actually control and what we can't control. So can we control walking outside in the fresh air. We get exercise, we get good air, as long as we're not in a polluted place. Can we look at our water intake? Is our water intake fresh? Is our water intake not polluted? So those are environmental things that you have to realize. So drinking lots of water, going out for walks, whether it be at lunchtime, whether it be before you start work in the morning, whether it be after work, doing some form of exercise are really important. Then the ones that you can control, there's your diet. So you can have healthy food. You don't need to go organic, but you need to have food that is rich in nutrients and rich in vitamins. So decrease the fatty foods, decrease the takeaways, decrease the McDonald's, increase your fresh fruit and veggies. That's a biggie for keeping your immune system strong. You also want to have good sleep. So you want to be able to make sure that you sleep well. What we find these days are people are on their iPhones or tablets right until they go to sleep at night. And what they're doing is they're not actually getting their body ready for what the body needs to do, which is regeneration. In the evening or at nighttime, your body regenerates. That's when the body makes more cells, the mitochondria connect more. It's rejuvenation. So sleep is very, very important. And we live in a technological age where these things come to bombard us. And we've got to just take a step back, I think, to go back to basics. Good food, good water, good environment. And those are the things that everybody can do. It's not a brainer. Everyone can do that.
Yes, yeah, that's true. We all have that option, don't we? But I've been hearing a bit more about our NFR2 pathways. Can you tell us a little bit about that? You have some knowledge of that? Can you explain it to us?
Yeah, well, this came to me a couple of years ago, and so I've been delving into the science of the NRF2 pathway. And you might say, well, that's a funny sort of name. It is actually a shortened version for a very long name, and medical people do that. We make, sort of shortened verbs, very long names. It all goes back to about 1969. Now, that's quite a long time ago. I was still little when they found an enzyme called superoxide dismutase. And you might say, well, why is that important? It was important because that is the antioxidant enzyme that is in every single cell of your body. Okay? Everyone knows about that. You take antioxidants because they're good for you. All right? Everyone knows that these days. So they found that enzyme. But it took them until 2004 before they could find what stimulated that enzyme.
Okay, yes.
What stimulated that enzyme was a pathway, a genetic pathway called the NRF2 pathway. Okay.
Now,
basically, the NRF2 is a protein that sits on the outside of the cell wall. And when you stimulate that protein by a series of complex reactions, it goes into the nucleus of the cell, and it tells that antioxidant enzyme, superoxide dismutase, to start to work. So you are now working in every single cell of your body to produce your own antioxidant enzymes.
It's great, isn't it? But tell me, how does that then affect oxidative stress? Can you share that?
People here probably don't know what oxidative stress is. I mean,
yes, we could
a combination
talk about that.
Yeah. So what happens is that when we're young, those enzymes like superoxide dismutase are functioning, they're going boom, 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 boom. But after the age of about 25, those antioxidant enzymes that we've got in our own body, they don't work as well. And as you get older, they work less and less and less. And we know that. And that's why the fad has been, take antioxidants, let's take antioxidants. It's not enough, because you actually have got to make antioxidants in each of your cell. Oxidative stress is an imbalance. So it is an imbalance of too many oxygen-free radicals. Now, oxygen-free radicals, I have to go into the science here because otherwise I can't really explain
That's
it. So
fine.
please excuse me if it's sort of a little bit like that. Oxygen-free radicals damage cells. We produce some of them normally during our breathing. They come from the mitochondria. So we produce oxygen-free radicals, but These days, we are bombarded with oxygen-free radicals from physical things like the water, like the atmosphere, like Wi-Fi, like technology, from emotional stresses, you know, difficult job, difficult relationships, grieving. They all create oxygen-free radicals. Bad food, oxygen-free radicals. And the body can't cope with those oxygen-free radicals because it hasn't got enough antioxidant enzymes to be able to neutralize them. So what we're getting is oxygen-free radicals damaging cells, sort of like rusting from the inside out. And so what oxidative stress is the imbalance of when you haven't got enough enzymes to be able to counteract those terrible free radicals, because they are damaging cells. And when they damage cells, they'll damage every single organ in your body, all of the tissues in your body, and basically your cellular health goes downhill.
Right. That's very interesting, actually. But I've only just heard about oxidative stress. Do doctors generally know about it?
Well, you know, I did medical school in the 70s and 80s, and there was no inkling of oxidative stress at all. We were never taught about that. We weren't taught about nutrition. I think we probably had half an afternoon in nutrition in medical school. So it's different these days. They are getting a little bit more information about nutrition and its value on the cellular processes. But a lot of the doctors out there just have no idea about oxidative stress. And if you talk to them about the NRF2 pathway, they have no idea whatsoever. So my job is to get out there and to educate people, whether they be lay people, whether they be professional people, about the power of turning on specific genes in your body to do your work yourself. Healing from the inside out rather than from the outside in.
That's very key, isn't it? That we do that. We try to heal ourselves somehow. Is there anything else that we can do to sort of help ourselves?
Look, Lynn, as I said, you know, we can all do the basics, as I said before in the run up to this. And if we activate the NRF2 pathway, it's a master genetic regulator. So it not only regulates the antioxidant enzymes, but it regulates about 250 other genes that we've got in our bodies. So we are seeing differences in the genetic expression, or the epigenetics, in our bodies. And epigenetics is a big word these days. We know that our DNA is not fixed. Our genes are little small blocks that make up our DNA, sort of like Lego blocks. And the DNA once was thought that it was fixed, that you couldn't do anything to it. But we now know that you can actually influence it. You can influence by your environment. You can influence it through what you take orally. There are lots of ways that you can influence your gene structure. And they've done a lot of studies on identical twins who have been put in different situations and seen the environmental changes and what effects they had on their genetic structure, because they had exactly the same genes, but the expression was different. So what I'm saying is that we can change what we've been born with. And that's a really exciting new science, Nutrigenomics.
Yes. And it seems like the universities and so on are coming to grips with this thought as well, this idea, isn't it?
There's a lot
there
of
were
studies
done.
That's exactly right. The human genome was mapped in 2003, and they found the NRF2 pathway in 2004. So what happened then was that a lot of the universities, especially in the States, a lot of very high achieving universities, Washington State University, for one example, looked at the NRF2 pathway, and they said that this pathway is going to change the face of medicine. That's basically what they said, because it is looking at things in a totally different light, a totally different approach, and a way that we can look at all the insults that we have in modern day life, which were not there 100 years ago. We just didn't have that.
So then is there something that else that can be done in terms of helping ourselves to get there with the this expression, I guess, or the NRF2? Is there something else that we can do or take, or what else can we do to help ourselves, because this is new, isn't it?
It is.
Relatively.
I came across a combination of natural ingredients which actually put together in a tablet, which actually stimulates this pathway. And the science behind this is phenomenal, all by independent universities. And it's something that will stimulate the pathway so much stronger than anything else. And they've compared this to things like greens, like broccoli and kale. And we know, and your mum used to know that, you've got to eat your greens.
Yes,
and
indeed.
We know that the greens stimulate also the NRF2 pathway. But if you use herbs in a certain combination, and that's what the research has all been about, they can stimulate that NRF2 pathway so much more than just eating green veggies. And we have the science behind it to back it.
I think Nutrigenomics isn't that a term that's been bandied about as well?
So Nutrigenomics is a new science, and basically it means nutrition affecting your genome or your genes, and they just put them together, Nutrigenomics. So we are now using natural substances or nutrition to affect your genetic structure, to affect the expression of your genes. And it's powerful stuff, because, as I said before, you are now stimulating antioxidant enzymes in every single cell of your body. So you're not taking antioxidants. That's sort of like throwing a teaspoon of water on a house fire. What you're doing is making your own, which is like having a bucket from a helicopter go all over a house fire. So it's that sort of degree of difference that we can do, and that's why it's so incredible. I'm not saying that. Sorry.
No, you carry on.
Well, I'm just saying, if you compare it to something like blueberries, which we know are a great antioxidant, to get the same effect, you would need something like 9 punnets of blueberries per day to get the same sort of effect. And we know that blueberries are a great antioxidant, red wine's a great antioxidant. The amount that we need for that is just minuscule compared to what we can do if we can activate that pathway specifically. And that's what the science is all about. And that's what I came in with, this whole new way of doing things, because the science is so robust. And I really feel that everybody should be on this. It's so incredible. It's the way of the future.
Well, it's exciting, because I guess what you're saying about nutrigenomics, that seems to be a preferable thing to sort of help ourselves with, as opposed to possibly doing other more like medical type things. I don't know what you might say about that.
We're very privileged in New Zealand, because we are an island and we have managed to contain the pandemic very easily. And I think, going back to basics again, I think in these days and times, it's important to just keep your immune system robust and healthy. And you can do that just with very much the basic things of good food, good water, good environment, less stress, and NRF2 activation, because all of those will make you healthy. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for cellular health, and we're looking for prevention. And that's what the NRF2 protein does. So it not only, as it is in the outside of the cell, any insult that comes towards the cell, it will start to repel it even before it does any damages to the cell. So the NRF2 protein is actually a very, very powerful protein, and works not only to neutralize, but also it will prevent anything that's coming in that's actually going to damage your cells. So it's exciting. And
yes, it really does sound exciting, something new coming on board, so to speak. But it's not exactly new, but it's something that is just becoming known, isn't it, about how we can help ourselves, and prevention is better than cure, is really what you're saying.
Exactly. And I think that people have got to realize that we have modern day medical conditions, and we have got to actually try and prevent things as much as possible by maintaining being healthy. And if we can, then we don't have to go down the track of having to do anything that's involved with that.
Very good. Well, I did ask for questions and so on, for people to post any questions. So We'll just see. I think we do have a few here. So just bear with me while I read some of these out. So one of the questions, a question way back, and maybe you've answered this already. Somebody is interested to know how the body creates oxygen-free radicals.
Okay, so what happens is that if you remember back to your high school biology days, you've got a cell and it has a nucleus and it has a lot of little organelles in it. One of those organelles is called mitochondria. Now, the mitochondria are like the batteries of the cell. They make the energy of the cell. So you find that in the organs which need a lot of energy, like the heart and the brain, they have thousands of mitochondria in every single cell. So the process of them producing energy, they produce oxygen-free radicals as a byproduct. Okay, so not only are you getting them from your environment, from your stresses, you're also getting them from each of your cells, from the mitochondria. And you might say, well, how can we reduce that even further? Because we've got the NRF2 pathway, which will reduce oxidative stress. So that will help with a lot of those oxygen-free radicals. But we also know that there's an NRF1 pathway. And I don't know whether you wanted to go into that today or not.
Yes, please. We'll talk a little bit about that.
The NRF1 pathway is basically, it's responsible for what they call mitochondrial biogenesis. And biogenesis means that it makes more mitochondria, it makes them function better, and it makes them connect better. So that means that any energy that you have, it's like recharging your battery. So you know when your cell phone goes flat with a battery, it needs a recharge. So basically it's recharging your mitochondria. And the NRF1 and the NRF2 actually work together, and they can stimulate each other to make each work more effectively than on their own. So if you can get a product which has NRF2 and NRF1, you are counteracting your oxidative stress maximally. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking to counteract that oxidative stress. Remember, oxidative stress is the imbalance of oxygen-free radicals with the oxidative enzymes. And if you can increase your oxidative enzymes and decrease your oxidative stress, health. That's what you get. You get health, you get energy, you get better sleep, you get better well-being, and you get prevention because you are robust.
Sounds amazing. Sounds exciting. Now, I have another question here. Stella's asking about animals. Would this work as well with animals as well?
Yes, it's interesting, Linda.
With this concept.
They did a lot of studies in mammals, and it's interesting that the mammals are extremely responsive to NRF2 activation. And I'm not quite sure why, but I've seen it in a lot of testimonials, and I've seen the science behind it, that NRF2 activation in animals is phenomenal. It works very quickly, often much more quickly than humans, and it is powerful. And as far as I can see, it's the way of the future for animals. It's incredible. So yes, Stella, go ahead. There is no stopping you. It is fantastic.
Great. And another question here, how about our skin? How is that affected by oxidative stress? That's from Catherine.
Catherine, our skin is our largest organ in the body. And it also sheds a lot of cells every day, and we replenish our cells every day. So if you're taking anything or you're doing things well, first of all, you'll see your skin feeling better and your hair better, because those are the ones that have got maximal growth. So what happens when you reduce oxidative stress is that you are no longer damaging those cells within the skin. And the skin is actually a very complicated organ. It has multiple layers within it, going from the epidermis to the dermis and layers in between them. So if you can change the genetic structure in those layers by decreasing your oxidative stress, what you'll find is that you will get skin that's radiant, that is well moisturized, that is less wrinkly, that actually glows and looks phenomenal, because you are getting to the root cause of damage to that skin.
Good. Great. Now let's see, we've got another question here. How does non-organic food affect our health?
It really
It's from
depends
Patricia.
on, yeah, Patricia, it really depends on what it's got in it, and where it's come from and what they've added, for example, pesticides, herbicides. So if you're having food that contains a lot of those things, like the pesticides and herbicides or additives, what you'll find is that increases your oxidative stress, because they're poisons to the body. And, you know, if you don't get rid of them, and if you don't know where your food's coming from, you are exposed to that. All of our foods in the supermarket often wrapped in plastic, and we don't know where they've come from. You know, even the country of origin sometimes is a little bit murky. And how do we know how they've been produced? Have they been, has the earth been flat scorched with pesticides in order to get these crops? Have they been sprayed incessantly with things? So it's really important that we know exactly what our food is. And that's even if it's organic. So it can be labeled organic, but we need to actually know that it is free of all of those additives.
So it is definitely important, because some people say, well, is that necessary to have organic foods? But you sort of explained it just now.
It's better. You know, it is better, and it will reduce your oxidative load. So you will not get as many oxygen-free radicals. And it's like having, you know, good relationships and laughter and fun. They reduce your oxidative stress as well, because your mindset is different and you feel part of a community. So those are all things that you can reduce oxidative stress. We know that if you lie down on the couch all day and eat fast food and watch TV and don't exercise and just then be on your tablet the whole day, you're not going to be healthy. We know that.
I hope my husband's listening to this. Oh dear, probably embarrassed him now.
Well, no, it's all about education, Linda, and you know, it's about moderation as well, and it's about balance. So I'm not saying that everyone has to go out there and, you know, run for 10 minutes each day. I'm saying that, you know, do whatever you can do, what's appropriate for you. You don't have to eat all organic food. Yes, that's the best. That's the absolute ultimate. But go where you can fit in. If you can, for example, exercise, a 10-minute walk. Or else just walking up and down the house, doing a few exercises in your bedroom before you get to work in the morning.
Just moving, isn't it?
Yeah, just moving and keeping your body going, basically. So just please understand that I'm not advocating that everyone should be absolutely on the best of everything, because it's not possible and that's not realistic. We've got to get everybody to fit in where they feel comfortable.
Indeed, yes. We still have a few more questions here. Christina is asking about vitamin D. Seems like, you know, that's recommended a fair bit here in the UK. I don't know about New Zealand, but certainly here. Is that something that we should be focusing and concentrating on?
Vitamin D is important, and it is important in cellular processes. Fortunately, in New Zealand, we don't have to take that as an adjunct because we are out in the sun a lot. So what I suggest is that maximize your sun exposure without getting sunburnt. We've got a little bit of a balance over here because we have very strong sun. So we don't have any problems with vitamin D deficiency in New Zealand. And I know in UK, when you're going into winter, you know, it's dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's hard to get out in the sun. So what I'm saying is just get out in that sun whenever you can, even if it's 10 minutes at lunchtime, just sitting in the park or when you're having a break. And that will help you with your vitamin D levels.
Great, good. Thank you for that. Now, another question. Catherine's asked, yes, she's asking about the NRF2 activation. Any more effective on older people? Is it more effective on older people? Can they benefit?
Absolutely. And it's interesting that they actually find that they get more benefit, because as I explained, your as you age, your antioxidant enzymes go down. And so when you're 80, they're much less than when you were 40, for example. So as you get older, you can actually get a lot more benefit, because they've done a blood test, or they did a study on people who were age 30 and people who were age 80. And so what they did is they gave them this combination of herbs, and which is an NRF2 activator, took a blood test every day. in 30-year-old and an 80-year-old, at the end of a month, the levels of oxidative stress in both of those age groups were the same. So the 80-year-old levels of oxidative stress had gone back to a 30-year-old. So what does that mean? It means less cellular damage. It means less aging. It means having a healthy health span. And that's what I really like people to take away from this. We're talking about health span, not lifespan, health span, so that you can live healthy for as long as you want, rather than living long but not healthy. Health span is very, very important.
We're saying about lifespan and health span between the two types of people.
So basically, when you are older, you want a healthy health span, not a lifespan. So you want to live to whatever you want to do for as long as you can. And it's sort of, we don't want to do a graph like that from birth to death. We want to go like this and then come down. So we want to live as healthy as we possibly can for as long as we possibly can.
Yes, yeah. Great. I thank you very much, Gail, for joining us today. Was there any other tips that you wanted to share? I think at the beginning you talked about those sort of 6 or 7 points that we could actually do to help ourselves, just personally help ourselves. You mentioned walking was one of them. Can you go over some of those points again?
Yeah, look, when I do a lot of talks, I talk about the 6 best doctors, and then I'm the 7th, but I don't really think that I've got much to offer in terms of that. But everybody can maximize their exposure to good fresh air, fresh water, sunshine, good sleep, good diet, and exercise.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a very easy thing to do, and
amazing.
And just do it at your pace and however you can actually contribute to that.
That's great. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Pearson. Just want to say thank you for joining us today on Strictly Healthy. If you found any value in what you've seen today or heard today, please get in touch. You can either drop a message in the chat, or if you would like to get in touch with any suggestions or points or tips with what you'd like to hear a bit more about on this show. But again, if you have any questions or want to find out more about what Dr. Pearson talked about, we would be most pleased to get you the answers. So we look forward to chatting with you soon. And yes, that's great. That's our lot for today. Thank you for joining us. Bye for now.